How is it that I hear the noise of creaking of the oars in the deepest mountains? Because of the ripening fruits that rub against wood as oars do. You're walking the very same path that haiku legend Matsuo Basho wrote as he walked through the Natagiri-Togai mountain pass during the Edo period. It's time for a local spiritual journey through mainland Japan. From intimate paths thick in the forest to Japan's highest peak of Mount Fuji, or Fujisan as the Japanese call it, today as we take a virtual adventure to Honshu, you'll discover the special connection between the people. There's a lot to respect about this region, from its past to sustainable things currently happening from within lesser-known parts of Mount Fuji to small fishing villages along both coasts. In this virtual adventure, you'll learn about Japan's stories from the Edo period, which was from 1603 to 1868. Edo was not only a period, but is also a region of Tokyo. Edo was a time renowned for internal peace and economic growth. You'll also get to experience how this time has lived on and how many treasures are still present from the Edo period. You'll taste farm-to-table food, understand sustainable ways of life, and learn how people of this region have been coexisting with nature for millennia. You'll also meet many travelers just like you who take this journey of experience, self-discovery, and transformation. Keep an open mind as you walk and meet the locals in the places you will be visiting, and as you let them guide you and warm your heart along the way. Junrei is the word most commonly used for Buddhism or Shinto pilgrimages in Japan. In the past, a pilgrimage was a chance to learn to travel, often by foot, while visiting religious sites. Pilgrims were often religious travelers. They would often begin at the first temple and carry on to the last. Pilgrimages started to gain popularity during the Edo period. Our journey begins just 1 hour and a half from Tokyo in Nagano. Often called the Roof of Japan, Nagano is home to the highest mountain ranges in the country. There's a list of 100 famous mountains in Japan, and over a third are in Nagano. Nagano developed a beautiful alpine culture because it was cut off from Japan for a long time. Many small hamlets and villages were surrounded by mountains and remained largely unchanged with time. At the same time, numerous trails connected Nagano with the rest of Japan. Considering that the Nakasendo Trail is the focus of this segment, the idea that Nagano was closed off seems contradictory. It's a place where a lot of these traditions are still kept, preserved, and able to be visited and enjoyed by travelers today. The Nakasendo is a place unlike any other. Walking here, you will feel like you slipped back in time to the Edo period. Even if you go to Kyoto to see its preserved shrines and temples, you'll still be surrounded by noise and throngs of people. Here, you can walk an ancient trail once traveled by samurai, princesses, lumberjacks, and common people. The Nakasendo Trail system is a picturesque walk through the mountains. The Nakasendo Trail was one of the two that connected Edo to Kyoto. We begin today's hike in the middle of the trail, exactly halfway between Edo and Kyoto. The Nakasendo is the road that the samurai lords would travel back and forth. You can feel the presence of peace as you pass tall cedar and cypress trees. You're walking the very same stone path that these people would have walked 200 to 300 years ago. After the Edo period, the Nakasendo Trail was left behind and abandoned, and as a result, some of its post towns are now among the best preserved towns in Japan. A rarity to see in other places these days. If you were wealthy, you would ride a horse or be carried, but the common people would walk the paths. The whole of the KISO Valley is famous for the wood and their evergreen trees used in the past to build the towns. Walking along the historical Nakasendo Trail, look at these old wooden homes, which are a relic of times past. Here are some straw sandals used in the past to walk these very trails. As travelers went about their journeys, they would stop to stay in one of the 67 post towns, which were a group of inns. Between the post towns of Tsumago and Magome, As you arrive, you get a warm welcome from the locals, as they will gift you some candies, tea, or even local vegetables. Enjoy washing your hands in local spring water before heading inside for some tea. Stepping inside of a post station for tea brings about a simple feeling, a reminder of the simple times of the Edo period. Outside, let's try goimochi, a traditional rice cake with sweet sauce, a favorite local snack. As we continue on the journey, have a look at these temples, which are both big and small, as well as jizos, which are a place to stop and pray for a safe journey, which we'll do today before continuing on ours. Just off the Nakasendo Trail to the west, we are headed to the area where Mount ONTAKE is. We're taking a hike, but beforehand, let's head to the waterfall to perform a ritual that ascetic monks would perform to purify their bodies and minds before entering the mountain. This ancient ritual is a way to purify one's body as they embark on the trails of the mountain. After performing waterfall meditation, one would eat sojin vegetarian meals for a week to further purify themselves as they enter the mountain. In the beginning of the Showa period, which was from 1926 to 1989, during the reign of Emperor Showa, many people from all around Japan came here. Many pilgrims grew old and eventually could no longer climb the mountain, so the visits ceased. These days, visitors are about 1% of what they were during their peak. However, most of those who do come preserve the old customs, always cleansing themselves under the waterfall before entering the mountain. Back in the day, you could spend 2 to 3 hours waiting for your chance to meditate under the waterfall. Now you can enter whenever you like. As you step into the falls and the water begins to rush over you from 40 meters overhead, it can feel like diving into cold water. It can be shocking, but when you focus on controlling your breath, it can feel very pleasant. You'll leave the experience feeling cleansed and refreshed. A rebirth, if you will. It is the perfect experience to set the stage before heading off into the mountains, just as pilgrims past have done before setting off on the very same path. We're now on the trail as it winds up the mountains and through the KISO Valley. Wearing the traditional pilgrim's clothing, you're walking among the trail that holds endless amounts of history. You are now hiking toward reaching Mount ONTAKE. It feels like you are cleansed and calm, soaking in the surrounding nature and its peace that it holds. We've reached the TORII gate, symbolizing the entrance to this holy spiritual place where you can hike all the way to the top of Mount ONTAKE. This is a spiritual destination that has attracted mountain ascetics for over 1,000 years. Mount ONTAKE is a place where all kinds of religion come together. The mountain itself was considered a god, and it is not itself tied to any one religion. Another popular area to visit on the pilgrimage routes is the TOGAKUSHI KODO Trail, which leads to the 5 shrines, which is where we'll hike now. The 5 shrines are spread amongst the trail, each dedicated to its own deity, which is a god or goddess. There is one legend, where a sun goddess was upset at her brother for destroying the world, so she shut herself away in a cave and hid the light away from the world. Some of the other gods got together wondering how to get her out of the cave. They started dancing, which made her curious. She cracked the stone door open, and one of the gods threw the stone away from the cave, and the door landed in Togakushi. And the mountain of Togakushi is representative of the door. Each of the shrines is dedicated to one of the gods in the creation story. Speaking of rain, Togakushi village has abundant spring water from mountains, which is great for soba, a Japanese noodle served either in soup, with sauce, or chilled. Since we've worked up quite an appetite, let's taste soba at a local spot to recover and get some energy. Togakushi soba is one of Japan's 3 famous soba varieties. The unique flavor and dish is popular among locals. It is made from local buckwheat flour and Togakushi spring water. Togakushi is a high-altitude area where not much rice could be grown. The only thing that could actually grow well was buckwheat. Soba really started out of necessity, but has become a delicacy over the years. Nagano is very well known for its soba noodles, and within Togakushi, it's one of the main areas people go to eat soba. Next, we have a look at a form of ninja martial arts that was developed over 800 years ago in Togakushi. TOGAKURE NINPO is one of 3 different styles of ninjutsu in Japan. This ninja style developed out of mountain Buddhism. It was formed out of a mix of different religious beliefs. Today, we're visiting a museum that houses the history of this ancient art form that some still practice. Ninjas worked as spies to gather information. Their training to become a ninja was rigorous, involving survival training and learning how to use poison and explosives. Covert female ninjas sometimes would use secretive hairpins or metal fingernails for weapons. TOGAKURE NINPO is known for the school of the hidden door, and it is a practice that has to be something that your enemy cannot see. You, on the other hand, need to be able to see what your enemy is hiding. It is one of the oldest ninja schools in existence. Next, we visit the 3rd largest wooden temple in Japan, ZENKOJI Temple. Before arriving, we pass Shukubo temple lodges, where pilgrims would stay after arriving at ZENKOJI Temple, which is more than 1,400 years old. ZENKOJI Temple is known for providing meditation opportunities not only to Buddhists, but also to people of other religions and non-religious peoples. There's a Japanese proverb that says, "Taken by an ox to ZENKOJI." The story's goal was a lady who wasn't very interested in religion. Her ox ran away. She followed the ox, and it took her all the way to ZENKOJI. Watch for wisdom in your everyday life, because even an ox can help you become more wise. There are many traditions here at ZENKOJI Temple. The first you'll experience before you enter the temple. As you approach, you'll cover the part of your body that you want to heal with smoke. Next, we have sutra copying, one of the first Buddhist temples in Japan. This is where we will try many spiritual experiences, starting with sutra copying. Sutra copying is an ancient technique of calligraphy. As you script characters in silence, you feel peaceful. Words slowly flow through you as you become one with the Buddha through this practice. The practice of sutra copying is meant to harmonize the body and mind through peace and creativity. We are writing a chant today with your name and your wish onto paper. You take one home, and you take the other copy as an offering to the temple. Our last tradition to learn about at ZENKOJI Temple is gomataki. This is a ceremony where you symbolically offer a wish you have written and take it into the fire, which will go up into the heavens so they can grant it. But before leaving, let's have a look at the monks and listen to them as they pray and chant. The ZENKOJI ceremony has been going on every morning at sunrise for over 1,000 years. ZENKOJI is really interesting as a temple because it's shared by various sects of Buddhism. It's really open to how it can be practiced. Anyone is welcome to worship here. Lake Suwa is Nagano's largest body of water and a crossroads of several trails. The most popular are the NAKASENDO and the HOKKAIDO. Many travelers and merchants pass through here on their way between Edo and Kyoto. And many pilgrims came here to visit the Suwa Taisha Shrine, one of the oldest shrines in the country. And it just so happens that Suwa region is famous for another thing, sake. Along the road, just beside Kamisuwa Station, you'll find 5 sake breweries, called the Suwa Gokura, which have been producing sake here for hundreds of years. The oldest among them is the Miyasaka Brewery, first established in 1662 and known throughout the country for its Masumi brand of sake. The perfect way to end a day's adventure before we head to another region to continue our explorations. Next, we are traveling in the region of Tohoku. The Tohoku region is known for its beautiful landscape, mountains, lakes, and healing hot springs. We start the journey in the Dewa Sanzan Mountains, where we're hiking 3 sacred mountains. The pilgrimage in Dewa Sanzan will lead you on a journey across Mount Haguro, Mount Gasan, and ending in Mount Yudono. The spiritual rebirth, which is an ascetic practice of shugendo, mountain worship, it has been practiced for thousands of years. The mountains each represent a different phase of life. Representing the present is Haguro. Gasan represents death and the afterlife, and Yudono represents rebirth. The journey begins in town at Mount Haguro as we arrive at our night's accommodation, a pilgrim lodge. In order to prepare for the journey, we must start with a traditional meal made from vegetables gathered in the surrounding mountains to fuel our bodies for the day ahead. This includes a private Shinto prayer ceremony. In the past, and still today, this process is done in order to purify the pilgrims before they depart on their journey, to rid of anything unnecessary so you can have a full reconnection with nature in the mountains. We're dressed in all white. This is traditionally what would be worn by the deceased, called a shiro shozuku. You yourself are seen to die in the mountains and be reborn.
やっぱりここはその修行の道場としての山です。で、ここで修行をすることによって人それぞれ自分なりの得るもの、気づくもの、気づきを得るわけですね。その自分の気づきを得るための、修行が山伏の修行です。ですから何かと言われたら人それぞれ違うものがあるというふうに言えるんだろうと思います。ただここは修行する場を皆さんに提供する山として古くからあるということなので、ここで来て修行していただければ何かしら大きな変化があるんだろうというふうに思います。
Horagai, which is the conch shell around your guide's neck, is blown at the start of the journey as send-off and then again at each mountain. It serves a dual purpose because it also keeps away the bears. Hiking to Mount Haguro, you're surrounded by huge cedar trees. As you approach the summit, you must first climb over 2,000 steps on a stone staircase to the peak. The second mountain we are climbing is Mount Gasan. Mount Gasan is a more rugged, higher altitude mountain. The last mountain we're hiking to complete our journey is Mount Yudono. The misty mountain gives off a mysterious feeling. Through the discovery and contact with nature, culture, and its people, you see how everything connects with each other. The pilgrimage of spiritual rebirth is complete after ascending Mount Yudono. This journey is a once-in-a-lifetime place for the Japanese people. There are no photos permitted on Mount Yudono, and it's forbidden to speak of exactly what occurs during each blessing at the shrines. So, if you want to see it, you'll have to make the once-in-a-lifetime journey yourself. Now that you have experienced rebirth, the journey continues, and you will continue to be reborn, opening yourself up in new ways of learning and meeting new people along the adventure. Let's head to the Natagiri-togi mountain pass to learn more about a legendary poet. We're now walking Matsuo Basho's narrow road to the deep north. It's a place where he was so inspired, and one that will inspire you too. Next, we head to Hijiori Onsen to explore the morning market. Off the beaten path, a secluded hot spring village very few travelers know about. This market has been held every day for hundreds of years. The families that run the market are descendants of the same people since the Edo period. It's really like stepping back in time. You can grab fermented foods, like pickles here, while having fun talking to the friendly locals, communicating with gestures and smiles. Our final stop of today's journey is the Naruko Onsen Hot Spring Village. A smaller and quieter area in the region, this location holds over 1,000 years of history. Fun fact, local farmers would practice doji, which is to use hot springs for regenerating their bodies after a long, hard-working harvest. They would stay in the town and use the hot springs for weeks at a time. Time to hop in the water for a boat ride on the Magomi River.
Stay strong and healthy. Don't you catch a body so full. まず私どもこの船下りでございますけど、夏はこういうね、こういう窓なんか全部取っ払ってます。窓取っ払って遮光ネットをしながら、もう風を感じれます。風を感じれる運行となっております。 これが冬場になりますと、これ全部窓がつきまして、扉もついちゃいます。で、こちらにね、ダクトがつきまして、上から温風が出るような形になって、船によってはこたつ船にもなります。で、ものすごい暖かくなります。冬はもう、この山々は全部水墨画の世界となります。雪が大体3メーターぐらい積もるところですからね。夏場はもう緑一色でございます。ね、こういう季節でございます。で、やっぱりこの魅力といいますか、この山々がね、せり出す感じでね、圧巻なんですよ。そこに最上川が流れてるんです。私も東京、ね、何年かいましたけれども、必ずお盆とお正月帰ってくる際は絶対この最上峡の景色を楽しみに来ていました。
This river once played an important role in supporting the Kito Maibune boat trade between Sakata City and the Kansai region. The Magomi River is surrounded by beautiful nature with mountains on both sides. This creates a peaceful and a relaxing piece of scenery that changes with the seasons. Enjoy the relaxing cruise down the Magomi River with a calm tide. Next up, we're immersing ourselves in a different nature scene. Heading off to the sense of the sea, we're beginning our journey exploring the Michinoku Coastal Trail. It stretches along the Pacific coast of northern Japan. Today we're in the Karakura area, which is sort of in the middle. The single-track trail was part of the rebuilding efforts along the eastern coastal area where the 2011 tsunami occurred. Newly opened in 2019, this 1,000-kilometer hiking trail is an off-the-beaten-path experience. On our journey along the thick green trail, you can smell the salt in the air. As we continue our journey, you can see parts of the path open up to the teal-blue water below. The atmosphere of the outdoors creates a nice place to reflect as you slowly make your way along the coast. Off in the distance, there are local fishermen bringing in their catch. Things changed after the tsunami hit, but everything is finally getting back to how it should be. Welcome aboard. We're hopping on a local oyster farmer's boat and cruising along the Miyagi coastline. His name is Masaya Hatakeyama, but you can call him by his nickname, Yakun. This area was home to 30% of Japan's oyster production pre-tsunami. Almost all the floating rafts you see in the bay were swept away in the tsunami. They spent years replacing those boats before they could yet again begin to do their work. Oysters are a great way to help to filter and clean water. Yakun is a young fisherman from the area who has been able to recover his business after the tsunami, and now he's thriving. Oysters are grown in several stages. They start from seed on a scallop shell. They grow year-round, with harvest generally from October to early spring. In Japan, oysters are enjoyed in many ways: raw, grilled, deep-fried, baked, steamed, and smoked. Otokoyama Hoten Sake Brewery has become a symbol of recovery for the town after the disaster in 2011. Despite their main office, and most of Kesanuma City, being devastated by the tsunami, through the support of townspeople who gathered up makeshift equipment, they were able to continue making sake the following day. Sake itself is spiritually very symbolic and important in Japan, seen as a connection between humans and the gods, so the brewery's recovery provided great courage and resilience for the town. The 9-1 restaurant connects with the sake brewery. The dinner experience here centers around an exclusive pairing menu designed by the head of the sake brewery. Each dish is made using local ingredients, including the oysters, and paired with a different variety of Otokoyama Honten sake. Living alongside a volatile earth, from the food on the plate in front of us to plate tectonics, you can see Earth can bring about both disasters and beautiful blessings, like Mount Fuji, which we'll explore in the next region we're visiting. This brings us to Shizuoka Prefecture, where we'll journey through the Izu Peninsula all the way to the summit of Mount Fuji. This journey starts in Izu, a peninsula that juts into the Pacific Ocean just south of Tokyo. It was once an island that collided into the mainland of Japan, which in turn led to the creation of Mount Fuji. Discover the special connection the people have with this mountain and learn how it sustains the communities around it. The Izu Peninsula is located in the temperate and humid climate zone, as with most locations in Japan. However, the climate within the peninsula varies between the coastal and interior parts, and the climatic diversity of the peninsula directly contributes to its biodiversity. Mishima City is just 1 hour from Tokyo Station on the Hokkaido bullet train. It is a green oasis town blessed by Mount Fuji. Much of the current city has been built on Ihara mud flow from when Mount Fuji erupted more than 2,300 years ago. A stone's throw from Mishima train station is where we'll begin at Rakujuin Park. Mishima used to be a real powerhouse of massive industry, but in recent years, locals have since cleaned up the Genbei River. It is a source of spring water, and it starts inside Rakujin Park, literally bubbling up out of the ground, and the water is coming straight from Mount Fuji. Walk along the beautifully constructed walkway and stepping stone path as you make your way under a train bridge. Even cross under an old train track that leads us to our next destination, ripe with bamboo. We're now visiting Suzenji, a hot spring town that also has an age-old temple. This area was once traveled by Kobo Daisi, aka Kukai, Japan's original adventure traveler. His name comes up in so many places around Japan and is credited to founding this temple in 807 AD, making it a fitting place to give reverence for a safe and enlightening journey. There's peace here everywhere you turn. One of our favorite spots to take a breath of fresh air is a beautiful bamboo grove designed to lay down and look into the sky. Legend has it that Kobayashi came and tapped a giant boulder in the river with his wooden walking stick, and the hot spring water came out, and this is what established the town of Shugenji. Crossing over the Katsura River, you'll see lots of ryokans, which are Japanese hot spring inns to rest your soul for the night. This area is famous for wasabi. Wasabi, a type of horseradish endemic to Japan, has been around for thousands of years. However, cultivation of it all started in Shizuoka. Since people associate wasabi with sashimi and sushi, many think it's a condiment. But for real wasabi, there's so much more effort involved. Today, we're learning how wasabi is grown and made. After pulling it from the water, you scrub it clean. Then you cut off the top. Then you clean it again. And then you grate it. You've likely had wasabi before, but maybe not the authentic, real thing. The experience of eating freshly grated wasabi on just a very simple bowl of rice, it's quite mind-blowing. It tastes completely different, and there are also many health benefits to eating wasabi. So we've now reached the Kawazu Nanadaru waterfalls, a series of 7 waterfalls cascading along the part of the ancient Shimotakaido trail between Mishima and the southern tip of the peninsula. Odaru Falls translates to large waterfalls, and that's where we are now. The final, biggest waterfall is a 30-meter high Odaru waterfall. Take a moment to look around the spectacular wonder of the world. You can see what they call columnar joints that were formed when recent lava flows cooled into pillar-like formations. And take a swim too, in the falls to cool off, and then hop in the adjacent hot spring water to warm back up where the water flows from Mount Amagi, the tallest mountain in the peninsula. Let's take a quick peek at Matsuzaki Township before turning in for the night. The town is full of Namakokabe style architecture. Matsuzaki was quite a prosperous town back in the day because of the fishing and charcoal industry. They used their riches to build these more robust and fireproof homes made out of type of thick plaster. You can find this style scattered throughout Japan, but in Matsuzaki town, they are beautifully preserved. Craftsmen have been getting more and more creative and begun to infuse detailed artwork into the style as well. If you leave the mountains untouched, they simply die. Matsumoto-san, who we're going to go cycling with in just a moment, has done great things for this mountain area to transform it into a trail everyone can use while still allowing its spiritual presence to shine through.
富士山難しいんだよな。僕らが住んでるエリアからは直接見えないんですよ。だけど海にカヤックでこう釣りに出かけて、まあ半島なのでこの岬を越えると海の向こうに富士山が見えるっていう。まあそれもコンディションのいい日しか見えなかったりするんだけど、まあ特に冬場とか空気が澄んで、なんだろう、海の向こう、海と伊豆半島の山とに、なんだろう、囲まれて、奥に富士山が見えるっていうのはやっぱ 面白い。普段なんか、静岡の有名な場所から見る景色とか、山梨側の湖の方から見る景色とかは、よく、映像とか見る角度だと思うんだけど、海の上から見る富士山っていうのは結構違う角度で面白いなと思ってます。
Matsumoto-san rediscovered these trails. It's quite a great legacy. Who would have known that 100 years later they'd be used for mountain biking? They feel perfect, almost like a half pipe when skateboarding. As you make your way downhill, you'll get to see a lot of statues that Matsumoto-san has uncovered. This is contributing to the local economy as well as sustainability and a fun place for young people to live. It's a whole ecosystem that's getting revitalized and rebuilt to the influence of one person and his team. It really only takes one person to start the trickle effect of positive impact in a community. Finally, we've reached the beach in Matsuzaki. Well done. Next, we head off for a unique way to fish, in a kayak with pedals in Matsuzaki. A quiet morning on a foot pedaling kayak allows you to be fully hands-free as you float the Pacific Ocean and try to reel in something great. Our guide, Matsumoto-san, caught a mahi-mahi fish, which is common to catch during summer months. Leaving the Izu Peninsula, we arrive at the base of Mount Fuji. We'll spend a night under canvas in the Sustainable Eco Camp. The founder, Masa Shintani, is one of the pioneers of sustainable tourism and started an NGO here.
In order for the people in the world to come here to experience and see the real culture, I made eco tours for international tourists, and for them to get more experience, we set it up this glamping in the middle of the village. I want more people over the world to feel the nature, feel the heart of villager living together with Mount Fuji.
And don't forget to take a bath the rustic way, in a barrel with water heated by an open fire underneath one of the most beautiful night skies in the world. Before climbing Mount Fuji, let's visit nearby Fujini Shinkisake. It's been in the same family for over 18 generations, since its establishment in the Mid-Edo period. What's special about this particular sake? One thing special is that all the sake is from rice just in and around his brewery, which is very unusual these days. After World War II in Japan, the factory workers took all that steel from weapons and scrapped it, and they used it to build the vats for brewing the sake. History in a bottle, or a glass that is. What was once used as a weapon among enemies now creates a moment among friends. Speaking of friends, time to climb Mount Fuji. Let's go. Mount Fuji, an icon you've seen on postcards, a near-perfect conical volcano and symbol of Japan. Fuji-san stands alone. In all its magnificence, its spiritual presence runs deep in the Japanese psyche, inspiring poems, art, and spiritual reverence over the millennia. The pilgrimage to Mount Fuji holds a spiritual significance, one that people have been going on for more than 400 years. A TORII, a broad vermilion gate, marks the entrance into the divine. This grand shrine at the base of Mount Fuji, called Maramuya Sengen Shrine, is where pilgrims purified themselves before embarking on the climb. While today most people skip all this at the beginning to start the climb from the midway point on the mountain to reach the summit, we will retrace the steps of those pilgrims on the less traveled paths, through lush forests up to the Hawaii crater. Mount Fuji's last eruption was over 300 years ago in 1707. It's a reminder that she is still an active volcano. More than just an icon, Mount Fuji represents a way the locals respect and live in synergy with it. The spiritual essence, and one that bleeds out into all parts of the country. Whether it's your first or fifth time to Japan, the adventures we embarked on along this journey are all about rediscovery. Rediscovery of Japan and its hidden gems, as well as the rediscovery of self.